Hi there. If you've ever enjoyed the meditative state that can be found with coloring in adult coloring books, then watercoloring with Chalk Couture is for you. Come along, let's have some fun and relax. Hi, this is Kathie. Welcome to Craft with Kathie. Thanks for joining me this evening. Drop me a line, let me know where you're viewing from. Say hello. I'm coming at you from the suburbs west of Chicago. Here's the deal. I know I just did this recently, the Dream Wildly, on an Odette board, and it's a beautiful transfer. It's very simple. It's kind of abstract, if you will. It has a nice font, and it's very pretty as it is. But what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to use the same transfer, and I am going to watercolor the petals of the flower and the leaves. So that's what's on tee up, and I'll show you how easy it is to do that. I've grabbed a bunch of different colors because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted. The one that I did with just the transfer was actually using our shimmer orchid, which is beautiful and very striking, but I wanted to go with a little bit softer of color, so I've got my peachy keen, and I've got some peony, but also the Sunset Drive and my rose gold. So I'm thinking possibly these four. We'll have to see. It might need something to spice it up, it might not. And I'm going to be doing this on just a regular canvas. I have taken and folded up a fuzzing cloth underneath it so that when I press down with my squeegee, I'm not stretching or pushing the canvas down. I have something beneath it so that I don't actually stretch it. And being that I am putting this on canvas, I do not need to fuzz my transfer because canvas is kind of like material. So I'm taking it straight off of its backer. Remember, our transfers are reusable, so I've obviously used this last week, and I'm going to put it on this canvas. And this is just like a 9x12 canvas. I'm going to smooth it down. I want to make sure I don't have any air bubbles underneath the silk screen anywhere. Remember, our transfers are made of vinyl, which is the teal, and silk screen is you're seeing through the silk screen to the surface beneath it. And I do definitely have an air bubble here. Just smooth that back down. Okay, I think that should be fine. I've got something on the back of this transfer. Okay. Get that out of the way. Okay. Oops, it's lifted up on me again, which is kind of strange. It might be the surface. A lot of times I sand my canvas, and I did not sand this. So let's see how this goes tonight. I really don't. It's kind of strange. Okay. I'm going to use the copper shimmer to do the outline. So this is a real easy technique. It is perfectly suited for this type of a transfer where you basically have an outline. And if you're a fan of coloring, using adult coloring books, you're going to love this because I enjoy coloring, I have to admit it. To me, it's almost like a form of meditation. And studies have shown that your brain goes into a similar mode as meditation. So that's partially why it's so relaxing. But what I found with adult coloring books is when I'm done coloring it, what am I going to do? Take it out of the book and pin it on my refrigerator? I mean, seriously, it's on paper. It's not even watercolor paper. And what do you do with it? How do you know what I mean? How do you show it off or do anything useful with it? So this answers that question. I'm going to use the copper shimmer to cover the entire transfer. I'm going to use the squeegee to apply the paste and gently push it through the silk screen. Not much pressure needed here. Remember, I have that folded up fuzzing cloth underneath it. I do not want to press strongly on it. Just basically cover the silk screen, smooth out the paste, remove any lines, and then remove any excess paste. so the words in the image are being fully applied to the canvas using the copper shimmer paste. Stretched canvas is a great surface to do this on. It's relatively inexpensive and readily available. Grab a little bit more paste here. Oh, I definitely have a bubble there. Do you see this? I don't know if it came up when I just went over it. Oh, we'll see how this looks. Worst comes to worst, it's just canvas. I'm not that worried about it. I have a feeling that I'm being a little bit too heavy-handed here, and I'm causing my canvas to scooch a little bit as I'm applying the paste. Okay, so let me clean this up, smooth it out, make sure I've got everything covered, put my excess back in the jar, close this up, and lift off the transfer, and let's check it out. I'm missing a little of my W down here because I did not go all the way to the bottom. There we go. And I've got a little issue right here. And that's around where the bubble was. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it because I was toying with, do I want a watercolor over the lines or not? I was actually thinking of using the Peachy Keen so that I had very faint lines so that I could go over it if I wanted and make it look like I'm not coloring in the lines, that it was totally freehand watercolor. And that's always an option. Which of course I chose not to do tonight just because I want to demo the watercoloring and then maybe on another project show you a little variation on that. I'm cleaning the paste off of my fingers because of course you know me, Kathie has to get paste all over everything. That's kind of my normal. And if you're not covered in chalk or you don't have paste or paint or something on you, then you're not having fun, right? So the key to watercoloring is using the chalk paste and watering it down with distilled water. And, you know, maybe before I do the flowers, maybe I'll start with the leaves. And I have some shimmer spruce and then a jade. And I'm going to mix up a little bit of that, mix them together and use them separately also. Bear with me, I need to take the cover off my jade. I've never opened it up before. Okay, so taking a little dab of the jade. Oops, I really don't need a lot, just a little bit. And putting it in my little color tray. And then I'm going to take some of my shimmer spruce and a little dab of that. I want to mix them up and I want them individually, if that makes any sense. I want basically 3 colors. Let me move this over to the corner. That one a little bit over to the corner. And then in the middle I'll do a blending of the 2 of them. I want a little bit darker than the jade. I basically want 3 shades of green. So I've basically gotten that here. I don't need a lot because there's not a lot of leaves. And I'm going to spritz some water into it and mix it up a little bit, not mix it up a lot, because I actually want I want it thinned down to paint with. However, I want it thinned out to paint with so it looks like watercolor, but I want to sometimes take pieces of the paste that are a little bit thicker and not quite as watered down so that it gives it more of that watercolor effect, if that makes any sense. So let me clean this up a little bit and we'll get started. Shimmer paste generally takes about 8 minutes to dry, which I a regular paste takes about 5 minutes. And I know I have a little dab down here that it speckled when I took the transfer off, but I'll address that later. Okay, I'm going to mix up the middle green. Kind of scoot that. Oops, too much water in that one. Oh, just grab a little of both of them again. This is my middle green. It doesn't look too much different, does it? Let me grab a little bit more of the dark. And you just mix till you get the color that you want. I'll grab a little bit more of the spruce again. Okay, now we've got 3 different colors here. I found it easiest to use varying widths of pointed brushes. The shimmer I have to mix a little bit more because it obviously has the the glitter or the shimmer to it. So it takes a little bit more to mix in. Okay. And truly, the narrower, the smaller bristles of a brush with smaller bristles works really the best. I was kind of relegated to what I had handy tonight. And I know I just went out of the line a little bit. This is where the fun begins. Add a little color, take a little color away with your brush. If you have too much, dry off your brush and just go back with it and remove a little color. Move the color around from one area to another. Make certain areas darker, certain areas lighter. It's really whatever you want to do. Go with the flow and have fun. You could come back and put another layer on here. You could basically do whatever you want. Just add it if you need it darker. When it dries, come back with a little bit more and add a little more dark if you need to do that. It really depends on the look that you want for everything. And this really is too big of a brush for my little leaves here, but I'll work with it. Now I was at a little bit of a disadvantage with this project in that I didn't have the appropriate brushes. I thought I had them and was ready to go, and then realized that I had left them somewhere else. So like I mentioned, you're better off using pointing brushes. This was like the flat-ended brush, and it was a little difficult getting into the finer areas. I do have another video where I use the appropriate brushes, and it's called He Has Risen, and you can check that out in my other YouTube videos. But it, as you can see from that, it makes it much easier to do what I was trying to do here with the shading with the appropriate brush, as opposed to this kind of clumped it all together in areas. But then I went back and lightened it up a little bit. You just really need to relax and not worry about it, because you can adjust and fix your mistakes. You know, as Bob Ross would say, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. And keep that in mind. You'll see at the end how I covered up that little splotch of gold I had. Grabbing a little bit of my olive shimmer, and I'm going to come back when it dries and just lighten that up a little bit. Now, because this is canvas and the nature of canvas, I mean, there is some texture to it, and you could see through it right there. Now I could cover it up, or I could work with it or leave it, whatever. It really all depends on what you want to do. We're all good, Deb. How are you guys doing? Mom's taking a little nap. This is my peony pink, which is kind of a deep, deep pink. Well, not a deep pink, it's a Pepto-Bismol pink, if you will. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. As soon as I have the appropriate number of subscribers to be allowed to go live on YouTube, I will be doing my tutorials live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So I'm really hoping to increase my number of subscribers. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them and answer any questions or that you may have, or open any and all suggestions. Now, isn't the Sunset Drive just absolutely beautiful? And definitely reminds me of the colors of the sunset. And I'm going to just actually scrape some off the lid here and throw it into my color tray for my 3 different colors. Oops, might need to snag a little bit more of that. The key to watercoloring with our chalk paste is actually watering down your paste to a more paint-like consistency. Remember to always use distilled water as opposed to tap water, because your tap water may very well have chemicals or minerals in it that interfere with the pigments in the chalk paste. So by using distilled water, you eliminate that risk of your color not being exactly what you intended it to be. So just thin it down to a more paint-like texture, and you can make it a little more translucent if you want with a little more water, or a little bit darker with a little bit less water. All in what you're going for, the look that you want. I'm going to go with the deeper, the more peony pink, more in the center or the inside. I need to turn this around. Of the petals. And then do some blending with the other colors. And like I said, this is pretty much abstract, so you could kind of fiddle around with whatever you really want to do with it color wise, and where you really want to paint. And if you go over the lines, no worries. If you want to actually have it outlined, just clean your transfer, come back and put it over, line it up, and just re-chalk the copper shimmer. So I'm just applying the peony, and then I'm going to come back and use some of the blended color to go around the outside of the petals and do a little blending. And you can make this look as more of a watercolor as you want, more kind of watercolor effect, just by spritzing it with additional water after you've painted it. You could actually inadvertently or deliberately let it drip and look kind of like a drippy watercolor, like it's dripped out of the outline. I've seen that done, and I think it's kind of an interesting look to it. Really depends on what you're going for and what you want. I would suggest, though, a pointy brush instead of a flat one that I'm using. It makes it a little bit easier to stay within the lines. I actually was too lazy to go to the craft room and dig up my other brushes today. Not too lazy, seriously, my knee's giving me some trouble. And the very thought of walking down the hallway and standing and looking in all my little drawers for my other brushes, I couldn't handle. So I've been kind of alternating an ice pack today. So hence why I'm using brushes that wouldn't be what I would normally use for this. I thought it would work. I don't think it'll be bad. It's just not as precise as I was intending. I'm gonna use this just for water to show you something. I'm gonna come back to what I've already done, let's say here, and just basically add some water for blending. So you could see how it's gonna be a little bit more see-through. And like I said, just add and take away, or make layers to get the look that you actually want. See the difference here in the shading than where I did it a little bit heavier? I'm just going over the lines. I'll lay this transfer back down and redo the outline. But if I didn't want to see the outline, I could have gone with something like just the peach by itself and gone over it and made it look like it was not colored in. You wouldn't really know if it was freehand or not, which is kind of a cool approach. Now, of course, if I had used the Peachy Keen and I went over it, I'd be probably pulling some off of the outline, and that would probably work better than using the contrasting copper shimmer like I did. Just a thought when you're picking out your colors. Something to consider. Probably a good idea to keep a damp washcloth or possibly baby wipes handy for cleaning your fingers, because if you're like me, you'll be getting chalk paste all over, and you don't want to accidentally apply any to your canvas in an area that you were not intending to. So keep those fingers clean. I seriously suggest, if you are a fan of doing adult coloring with coloring books, try this out. You really will enjoy it. If you're ever looking for a way to truly mellow out and relax, this is it. I have a real hard time meditating. My mind just spins. It's hard for me to clear my thoughts. But when I'm watercoloring, all I'm paying attention to is what's right in front of me. I'm not figuring out the day's issues or problems or what I need to do tomorrow or what's on my to-do list. It's just I'm fully immersed in the project, and it's wonderfully relaxing, as it should be. Plus, it's fun, and you actually feel rejuvenated. How cool is that? Adding a bit more color to my leaves and trying to get a little bit of a differentiated shading on them. I've gone a little bit out of the line, but I actually fix that when I lay the transfer back down and do the outline again. I think this is a good opportunity to use a white chalk marker and basically remove the green with it. There's a little bit of a bleed outside of the outline of the leaf, so I'm going to remove that by using a white chalk marker. We'll think about that a little bit. I don't know. I'm making pretty much of a mess, aren't I? Anyway, it actually is kind of a fun technique. I would definitely suggest using the proper size brushes, though, so that you get a little bit more of a refined look than what I'm coming up with here. Oh, I never used the sunset. Boy, how did I forget that? Let's get some sunset in there. It's looking a little too flat. I've applied a lot of the sunset drive here, deepening the color and blending it quite a bit, and I think it warmed the petals of the flower up quite a bit. It gave a lot more depth and dimension to it, but at some point I had no regard for the actual outline and just went over everything. So I addressed it at the end by reapplying the transfer, but you can see how this whole flower is warming up with the sunset drive and how it's changing the look of the individual petals. So I decided, while I like the color of the petals, this needs a little bit of a boost. So I'm going to clean the transfer, let it dry, and then I'm going to lay it back down. I will do the stem of the flower in the shimmer green, and then I'm going to outline the petals in a contrasting color. And keep the wording in my shimmer copper, but I think the petals need a little bit of drama added to them. Check out the end and you'll see what I mean. What do you think? A little sloppy on my part, but I think that could be covered up. I'll wait till this dries. I'll go clean my transfer. I'll lay it back down and do the outline again and see if I could salvage those leaves. And then I'll post the pic. Thank you so much for watching this evening. I surely do appreciate it. Have a nice evening. See you soon. I laid the transfer back down, offsetting it just a slight bit. I did the stem and the leaves in the shimmer green, and then I actually added, before I laid the transfer down, a little bit more deeper colors to the petals and a little bit more of the sunset drive. And then I outlined the petals on the transfer using currant jam. I think that contrasting color gave it exactly what it needed. What do you think? See you soon.